I was sitting on my porch in Nashville, Tennessee, watching the sky turn orange as the sun dipped low. A cold beer sat in my hand, sweating onto the wooden railing. It was a quiet evening, the kind I'd started to crave after years of chaos. Then my phone buzzed. I glanced down at a text from my dad. "Lucas, we need you to sign off on a loan for Sarah's new house. Bank's asking for your papers. We talked about this already." My stomach twisted. No, we hadn't talked about it. Not once. They'd just gone ahead and decided my paycheck was theirs to claim, like it was some kind of family potluck where everyone gets a scoop. I took a long sip of that beer, letting the bitter taste settle. My whole life, it had been like this. Me, the guy who's supposed to nod and hand over whatever they need. My sister Sarah, my dad, my stepmom, they'd always acted like my money and my time were part of some shared stash. I'd paid for Sarah's car repairs last year, covered Dad's fishing boat when he forgot his wallet, even pitched in for stepmom's fancy kitchen remodel. But this? A house loan? That was a whole new level of gall. The air was warm, crickets starting their nightly hum, and I made up my mind right there. I hit record on my phone, keeping my voice steady as a rock. "Hey, family, it's Lucas. I ain't signing nothing. I ain't explaining nothing. I'm not your ATM, and I'm not your punching bag. If this is how you think things work, good luck. I'm out." I sent it to the group chat and waited. Silence at first. Then the flood came, Sarah texting, "What's wrong with you?" Dad firing back, "This isn't how we raised you." Stepmom chiming in with, "We're just worried about you, Lucas." Worried? Sure. Worried I wouldn't cough up the cash? I didn't reply. I turned off my phone, finished my beer, and stared out at the fading light. For the first time in forever, I felt a weight lift off my chest. I wasn't running to fix their mess. I wasn't bending over backwards to keep the peace. I was done. A week later, Sarah's big engagement party rolled around, some fancy shindig up in Knoxville. I wasn't invited. Hadn't been for months, not since I told them I couldn't keep bailing them out. Sarah had even said it herself on a call once. Only people who matter are coming. Guess I didn't make the cut. So while they were up there toasting her perfect life with her fiancé, Greg, I was in Nashville, frying up some bacon and eggs in my little kitchen. No stress, no drama, just me and the sizzle of grease in the pan. I flipped on the TV, half expecting to see nothing but football, when my phone lit up again. My buddy Mark this time. "Dude, you gotta check this out. Twitter's going nuts." He sent me a link. I clicked it, and there it was, a shaky video from the engagement party. Sarah, all dolled up in a sparkly dress, standing next to Greg. People clapping, music playing, and then, bam, Greg stops dead. He mutters something, shakes his head, and storms out the back door. Sarah's left there, mouth open, while the crowd erupts into whispers and shouts. I watched it twice, thinking it had to be fake. But nope, Mark sent 2 more clips from different angles. Same deal. Greg booking it, Sarah stunned, some lady, probably stepmom, yelling after him. Total meltdown. Then the text started rolling in. "Dad, Lucas, Sarah's a wreck. You need to get up here. Stepmom, this is a disaster. Where are you?" Sarah herself, "Please, Lucas, I need you." I stared at those messages, my eggs getting cold on the plate. Needed me now, huh? Funny how I wasn't worth a damn to them until their perfect little world fell apart. I didn't answer. I turned the phone face down, finished my breakfast, and took a walk down by the Cumberland River. The water was calm, reflecting the city lights, and I felt something I hadn't in years, quiet inside my own head. They could figure it out. For once, I wasn't their fix-it guy. It was a couple days after that engagement party mess, and I was still in Nashville, keeping my head down. I'd taken to muting my phone. Those texts from Dad, stepmom, and Sarah kept coming like a swarm of angry bees, but I wasn't about to get stung again. I was out back, tinkering with my old pickup truck, when my buddy Mark swung by. He's the kind of guy who always knows what's cooking, whether it's gossip or a good barbecue. He leaned against the tailgate, cracking open a soda, and gave me that look, like he had something juicy to spill. "Lucas, you ain't gonna believe this," he said, grinning like a kid with a secret. Greg didn't just walk out for no reason. Word is, he caught Sarah texting some dude she used to date. Like, flirty stuff, man. Recent too, couple weeks back. Someone snitched, showed him the proof right before the party kicked off. I stopped messing with the oil filter and wiped my hands on a rag, letting that sink in. Sarah and her ex? That tracked. Back when we were still on speaking terms, she'd call me up late at night, bawling her eyes out about that guy, Derek, I think his name was. I'd drag myself out of bed, drive across town to her place, and sit there while she vented. One time, I even bought her a pizza and let her crash at my apartment. Next thing I know, she's back with him. "No, thanks, Lucas, no nothing." I shook my head, half laughing. Figures. She always had a soft spot for the ones who treated her like dirt. Mark nodded, taking a swig of his soda. "Yeah, well," Greg wasn't laughing. "They say he had screenshots, whole stack of them. Threw him at her in front of the caterers and bolted. Party was over before the cake got cut." I could picture it, Sarah standing there, all her glitter and glamour crumbling, while Greg peeled out of the parking lot. Part of me wanted to feel bad, but I didn't. Not really. She dug her own hole. By noon, my phone was buzzing again. I caved and checked it, just the lock screen. No replies. "Stepmom, Lucas, this is serious. Sarah won't eat. We're all falling apart. Dad, son, you can't keep ignoring us. Family sticks together. Then Sarah, I messed up bad. Lucas, please call me. I tossed the phone onto the workbench and grabbed a wrench. Family sticks together? Where was that line when they were divvying up my paycheck without asking? Where was it when Sarah told me I didn't matter enough to get an invite? I spent the afternoon tearing apart the truck's carburetor, grease up to my elbows, radio playing some old country tunes. It felt good, working with my hands, no one yammering in my ear about what I owed them. Around dusk, Mark stuck around to grill some burgers out back. We sat on the porch, eating and shooting the breeze, when he brought it up again. You think they'll keep hounding you? I shrugged, biting into my burger. Probably. They don't quit easy when they need something. Sure enough, next morning, I got a voicemail. It was my cousin Tina, the only one in the family I still half liked. Her voice was quiet, like she didn't want anyone overhearing. Hey, Lucas, it's me. Look, I get why you're mad. What they did, what they're still doing, it ain't right. Sarah's a mess, yeah, but they're acting like you're the bad guy for not running up there to fix it. Just watch out, okay? Stepmom's talking about showing up at your place. I played it back twice, feeling a knot in my gut. Tina was solid. She'd never been one to pile on the guilt. But stepmom at my door? That was a storm I didn't need. I decided to clear my head. Took the truck, still running rough, but good enough, down to Percy Priest Lake. Parked by the water, cracked a window, and just sat there, watching the ripples. I wasn't surprised Sarah's mess blew up in her face. I wasn't shocked Greg walked out. What got me was how fast they turned to me, like I was some emergency kit that could dust off when things went south. I'd spent years being that guy, driving through the night for Sarah, wiring money to Dad, nodding along while stepmom planned her next big thing on my dime. And what did I get? A cold shoulder unless they needed a favor. Sitting there, I made a call not to them, but to myself. No more. I wasn't going back to that life. Let them figure it out. I turned the key, headed home, and slept better than I had in months. No dreams of guilt. No waking up to a phone full of begging. Just peace. About a week after Sarah's engagement party turned into a train wreck, I was starting to settle into a routine in Nashville. I'd wake up early, brew some coffee, and head out to the garage to mess with my truck. It was simple, kept my hands busy and my mind off the family nonsense. That morning, I was under the hood, wrestling with a stubborn bolt, when I heard tires crunching on the gravel out front. I figured it was Mark, maybe dropping by with more gossip, but when I poked my head out, I saw stepmom's silver SUV parked crooked in my driveway. My heart sank. Tina's warning wasn't just talk. I wiped my hands on my jeans and stepped onto the porch as she climbed out, clutching her purse like it was a shield. She had that look, eyes all puffy, mouth set in a thin line, the one she used to make you feel like you'd kicked a puppy. Lucas, she said, voice wobbling just enough to sound rehearsed. Can we talk? I didn't say anything right away. Just leaned against the railing, arms crossed, and let her stew in the silence. She took a step closer. I drove all the way from Knoxville. It's important. All right, I said, keeping it flat. What's so important? She launched into it. No hello. No how you been. Straight to the script. Sarah's falling apart, Lucas. She hasn't left her room in days. Greg won't even answer her calls, and the house deal's dead without your signature. We're your family. We need you. I stared at her, feeling the old anger bubble up. Family. There it was again, that word they tossed around like a fishing lure, hoping I'd bite. Where was family when you all cut me out of that party? I asked, voice low but sharp. When Sarah said I wasn't worth a seat. When you decided my money's yours without even asking. She flinched, but she didn't back down. That was a mistake, okay? We were stressed, planning everything. Sarah didn't mean it like that. I laughed, couldn't help it. Didn't mean it? She said it clear as day. Only people who matter, right? Guess I didn't make the list till you needed a bailout. Her face tightened, and she switched gears. Your dad's worried sick. He won't say it, but he is. And me. I can't keep this all together alone. We're struggling, Lucas. The grocery card's not working anymore. Did you do something to the account? That hit me like a punch. The grocery card. I'd forgotten about that. Some joint account I'd set up years back to help them out. I'd closed it after the party, tired of seeing random charges for stuff like Sarah's takeout or stepmom's nail appointments. Yeah, I said. It's done. Account's gone. She blinked, like she couldn't process it. Gone? Lucas, how are we supposed to? I cut her off. Figure it out. Same way I've been figuring things out without you all leaning on me every damn day. She stood there, mouth opening and closing, then went for the guilt card. I thought you cared about us. After everything we've been through together, you're just gonna turn your back? That stung, I won't lie. I remembered the times I'd cared, driving Dad to the hospital when his knee blew out, staying up late to help Sarah with her college applications, even painting stepmom's porch when she asked. But caring's a two-way street, and they'd been coasting one way for too long. I cared plenty, I said. Years of it. Where were you when I needed a break? When I told you work was killing me, and you laughed it off. Called me lazy. She didn't have an answer for that. Just stared at the ground, clutching her purse tighter. I took a breath, steadying myself. I'm tired, stepmom. Tired of being the one who's got to save everybody. You want help? Look somewhere else. I'm done. She didn't cry, didn't yell, just nodded, real slow, and got back in her SUV. I watched her pull out, dust kicking up behind her, and felt a weird mix of relief and ache. She'd come expecting me to cave, like always, but I hadn't. That was new. I went back to the truck, cranked the radio, some Johnny Cash tune, and kept working. Later, I grilled a steak for dinner, sat on the porch with a beer, and watched the stars come out. No texts, no calls, phone was still muted. I figured they'd try again, but for now, it was just me and the night. Next day, Tina called. She's back, she said. Stepmom's telling everyone you're cold-hearted. Said you wouldn't even let her in the house. I snorted. She got as far as the porch. I heard her out. Tina sighed. I know. She's spinning it, though. Dad's quiet, but he's mad too. Sarah's still a ghost, won't talk to nobody. I thanked Tina for the heads up and hung up. Let him spin it. I wasn't playing their game anymore. I assume you meant carry on with the 3rd chapter, or move on to the 4th chapter. Since I've already provided chapter 3, I'll proceed with chapter 4, continuing the story as per your instructions. This chapter adheres to the same guidelines. First-person perspective, simple American man style, at least 3,000 characters, no abbreviations, fully detailed, and prepared for AI voiceover. The narrative will build on the previous chapters with new developments and outcomes. Chapter 4, a new start and old echoes. A couple weeks after Stepmom's visit, I made a big move, literally. I'd been thinking about it for a while, and with all the family drama still simmering, I figured it was time. Nashville was fine, but it felt too close to Knoxville, too close to them. So I packed up my stuff, truck parts, clothes, a few old guitars, and headed west to Chattanooga. Got myself a little place near the river, nothing fancy, just a 1-bedroom with a decent porch and a view of the water. Remote work meant I could set up anywhere, and I liked the idea of a fresh start where nobody knew my name. The first few days were quiet. Unpacking boxes, rigging up my desk, getting the lay of the land. I'd hit the grocery store, nod at folks on the street, and come home to a phone that didn't buzz every 5 minutes. It was strange at first, waking up without that itch to check for emergencies. I'd pour my coffee, sit outside, and listen to the birds instead of Dad's grumbling voicemails or Sarah's sob stories. I started running in the mornings too, down by the Tennessee River, letting the cool air clear my head. For the first time in years, I was living for me, not them. But they didn't let go easy. About a week into my Chattanooga life, I got a package in the mail. No return address, just my name scratched out in Dad's blocky handwriting. Inside was a letter and a stack of old photos. Me and Sarah as kids, fishing with Dad. One from Stepmom's wedding where I'm grinning like an idiot in a too-big suit. The letter was short, straight to the point. Lucas, we miss you. Sarah's struggling bad. Lost her job, can't pay rent. We're barely scraping by without that account. You're breaking us apart. Come home. I sat there, holding that paper, staring at those pictures. Part of me wanted to crumple it up and chuck it in the trash. Part of me felt a tug, like maybe I was the jerk here. I didn't write back. Instead, I stuck the photos in a drawer and went for a drive, up Lookout Mountain, winding through the trees, till I hit a spot where you can see the whole city spread out below. I stood there, hands in my pockets, thinking about what home even meant. Growing up, I'd been the glue, fixing fights between Dad and Sarah, hauling groceries when money was tight, keeping my mouth shut when Stepmom laid into me for no reason. I'd thought that's what family was. You take the hits, you keep going. But standing on that mountain, I realized they'd never done the same for me. Home wasn't Knoxville. It wasn't them. It was wherever I could breathe. Back at the apartment, my phone pinged, email this time, from Sarah. Hey, Lucas. I know you're mad, and I don't blame you. I screwed up, with Greg, with you, with everything. I'm sorry. Can we talk? I read it 3 times, feeling the old reflex kick in, run to her, fix it, make it right. But I didn't. I left it sitting there, unanswered, and went to strum one of my guitars instead. Played some Hank Williams, let the notes fill the room. I wasn't ready to talk, not yet, maybe not ever. Next day, I met a guy at the coffee shop down the street, Tom, a mechanic who'd lived in Chattanooga his whole life. We got to chatting about trucks, and he invited me to a cookout that weekend. I went, brought a 6-pack, met some folks, laughed more than I had in months. Nobody asked me for a dime or a favor. They just passed me a burger and asked if I'd seen the latest ball game. It hit me then. This was what normal felt like. No guilt trips, no begging, just people being people. That night, I got another call, Tina again. Hey, Lucas. They're still talking about you. Stepmom's saying you abandoned them. Dad's moping around. Sarah's crashing at a friend's place now. I just wanted you to know. I thanked her, kept it short. Appreciate it, Tina. I'm good here. She paused, then said, glad you are. You deserve that. Hanging up, I felt a little lighter. Tina got it. She always had. The rest of them? They could keep spinning their wheels. I grilled some chicken on my porch, watched the river reflect the moonlight, and slept like a rock. No dreams of Dad's disappointed frown or Sarah's tears. Just quiet. Chattanooga was starting to feel like mine, and I wasn't looking back. A month into my Chattanooga life, things were humming along smooth. I'd settled into my little riverside place, got the truck running like a dream, picked up some side gigs fixing engines for folks around town, and even started jamming with Tom and his buddies on weekends. My days had a rhythm. Coffee on the porch, work at the desk or in the garage, a run by the water, maybe a beer with new friends. No more jumping every time my phone lit up. I'd stopped muting it, didn't need to. The calls and texts had slowed to a trickle, like they'd finally got the hint. But then one Saturday, I was at the farmer's market picking up some tomatoes when my phone buzzed with a number I hadn't seen in a while, Dad's. I let it go to voicemail, paid for my stuff, and listened to it on the walk home. His voice was rough, tired. "Lucas, it's me. Look, I ain't good at this. Sarah's in a bad spot. Lost her apartment, crashing with friends. Stepmom's talking about selling the house to cover bills. I don't know what to do. Just call me, all right?" I stood there on the sidewalk, bag of tomatoes in one hand, feeling that old pull in my chest. Not guilt. Exactly. More like a reflex, years of being the guy who steps in. I didn't call back. Went home, made a sandwich, and sat out back with the river rolling by. I thought about Dad, how he'd always been the quiet one, letting Stepmom run the show while he tinkered in the garage or fished at the lake. He'd never stood up for me, not once, but he'd never asked much either. Now here he was, sounding like a man drowning. I wondered if he'd written that letter with the photos, or if Stepmom had put him up to it. Either way, it didn't change the math. I wasn't their lifeline. Monday rolled around, and I got a text from Tina. "Hey Lucas, heads up, Dad's talking about driving down to see you. Stepmom's pushing him, says you owe them a face-to-face. Sarah's still a wreck, but she's working some temp job now. Just watch her back." I groaned, rubbing my face. Dad showing up? That'd be a first. He wasn't the confronting type, more likely to sit in silence than say what's on his mind. I texted Tina back. "Thanks for the warning. I'm good here. They can do what they want." She replied with a thumbs up, and that was that. Sure enough, Wednesday afternoon, I'm sanding down a fender in the garage when I hear a rumble. Dad's old Ford pulling into my driveway. He steps out, ball cap pulled low, hands shoved in his pockets. I wipe my hands on a rag and walk out to meet him. "Hey Lucas," he says, voice gruff. "Can we sit?" I nod, point to the porch chairs. He sits heavy, like his bones hurt, and I take the other seat, waiting. He stares at the river for a minute, then starts. "I know you're mad. Got every right to be. We leaned on you too hard, too long. I should have said something, stopped it. I didn't. I don't say nothing. Just let him keep going. Sarah's in deep now. No place of her own, barely eating. Stepmom's a mess too. House payments late, creditors calling. I ain't asking you to fix it, Lucas. Just tell me how we got here." His eyes meet mine, and they're red, tired. I take a breath, picking my words. "You got here 'cause you all decided I was the answer to everything. Money, problems, whatever. Never asked if I could carry it, just piled it on. I got tired, Dad. Tired of being invisible till you needed me." He nods slow, like he's chewing on that. "I didn't see it. Should've. You were always the strong one." I shrug. Strong don't mean unbreakable. He sits quiet after that, then stands. "I ain't here to beg. Just wanted you to know I'm sorry. We all are, in our way." He heads to his truck, stops halfway. "You're doing all right here?" I nod. "Yeah, better than all right." He tips his hat and drives off, dust trailing behind him. I sit there a while, replaying it. First time Dad ever said sorry. Didn't fix the past, but it landed different. Honest, not a ploy. I grilled some fish that night, watched the sunset, and felt steady. They were hurting, sure, but it wasn't mine to carry anymore. Fall hit Chattanooga with cool winds and leaves piling up everywhere. I'd been there 3 months now, and life was good. Simple mine. Work kept me busy. Tom's crew had me playing guitar at their bonfires, and I'd even started fixing up an old boat I found cheap at a yard sale. The family noise had died down after Dad's visit. No more packages, no desperate calls. Tina checked in now and then, keeping me posted without pushing. Sarah was scraping by, Stepmom was cutting corners, Dad was back to his quiet ways. I listened, nodded, and let it roll off. Then one crisp October morning, I'm at a diner grabbing breakfast. Eggs, bacon, the works, when I see them. Across the street, stepping out of a rental car, Dad, Stepmom, and Sarah. They're dressed nice, like they're headed somewhere, but Sarah looks rough, thin, eyes sunken. I freeze, fork halfway to my mouth, hoping they don't spot me. Too late. Stepmom's head turns, and she nudges Dad. Next thing I know, they're crossing over, heading straight for the diner door. They walk in, and the bell jingles. Dad gives a small wave, Stepmom's got that tight-lipped smile, and Sarah just stares at the floor. "Lucas," Dad says, "didn't know you'd be here. We're in town for a thing. Thought we'd try to see you." I set my fork down, lean back. "What kind of thing?" Stepmom jumps in. "A family counseling session. We're trying to fix things. Thought maybe you'd come." I blink, caught off guard. "Counseling? That's new." Sarah finally looks up, voice shaky. "I messed up, Lucas. Not just with Greg with you. I took you for granted, and I'm sorry. I don't expect you to believe me, but I mean it." Her eyes are wet, and she wipes them quick. Dad nods. "We all did wrong by you. This ain't about money or dragging you back. We just want to talk, figure it out." Stepmom adds, you don't have to decide now. Session's at 2. Here's the address. She slides a card across the table, and they leave quiet, no fuss. I sit there, food going cold, staring at that card. Part of me wants to toss it. Let them sort their mess without me. But another part's curious. They'd never tried anything like this before. No guilt trips, no demands, just an ask. I finish my coffee, pay the bill, and head home. Spend the morning sanding that boat, thinking it over. By 1, I'm in my truck, driving to the address, a little office downtown, nothing fancy. They're there when I walk in, sitting stiff in a waiting room. Sarah gives a small smile. Dad nods. Stepmom looks surprised. The counselor's a gray-haired guy named Mike, calm and straight-shooting. We sit in a circle, and he starts. This is about honesty. No fixing, just saying what's real. Dad goes first, talks about being checked out, letting Stepmom and Sarah run me ragged. Stepmom admits she leaned on me too hard, thought it was my job to hold them up. Sarah cries, says she was selfish, too wrapped up in her own life to see mine. When it's my turn, I keep it simple. I spent years being your safety net. Money, time, whatever you needed. Never got a thanks, never got a break. I walked away 'cause I had to, didn't want to hate you. Still don't. But I'm done carrying you. Mike nods, lets it sit. We talk more, awkward, messy, but real. No big hugs, no fairy tale ending. Just words, out in the open. Driving home, I feel lighter, not fixed, but heard. They're trying, maybe for real this time. I don't know if it'll stick, but it's something. I grill a steak that night, crack a beer, and sleep easy. Winter rolled into Chattanooga, blanketing the river in fog and turning the air sharp. 6 months since I'd left Nashville, and I was a different man, still me, but freer. The boat was done. Took it out on the water every weekend, fishing or just drifting. Work was steady, friends were solid, and I'd even started writing songs again, strumming out the past on my porch. The family stayed quiet after that counseling day. No begging, no emergencies. Tina said they were still going to sessions, working on themselves. I hoped it was true, but I didn't hang my hat on it. One snowy afternoon, I'm at the coffee shop when Sarah texts. Hey, Lucas. Got a job, real one, at a store downtown. Moving into a cheap place next week. Just wanted you to know. I read it, smile a little. Good for you, I text back. She replies, thanks. Hope you're good too. That's it, no drama, no ask. A week later, Dad calls. Lucas, we sold the house. Downsized to an apartment. Stepmom's working part-time now. We're managing. You doing all right? I tell him I am, and he says, proud of you, son. First time I'd heard that in years. Spring came, and I ran into them again planned this time. They drove down for a visit, just lunch at a barbecue joint. No heavy talk, no apologies needed. Dad asked about my boat. Stepmom showed me pictures of their new place. Sarah talked about her job. It was easy, like meeting old friends you hadn't seen in a while. They didn't ask me for nothing, and I didn't owe them a thing. When they left, Dad clapped my shoulder, Sarah hugged me quick, and Stepmom said, come see us sometime. I said I might, and I meant it. Now it's summer, and I'm sitting on my porch, river sparkling under the sun. Been a year since that engagement party blew up, since I drew my line in the sand. I don't miss the old days, the running, the giving, the waiting for them to care. I've got my life here, the boat, the music, the quiet. They've got theirs, and it's holding together without me propping it up. We talk sometimes, short calls, little updates. It ain't perfect, but it's enough. Folks ask if I regret walking away. Nah, I regret staying too long, letting them drain me dry. Cutting ties saved me, gave them a chance to stand up too. If you're reading this, wondering if you should do the same, listen, peace ain't cheap, but it's worth it. Living for you ain't selfish, it's living. I'm Lucas, and this is my story. Thanks for hearing me out.